All right, we're reconvening the April 16th, 2013 meeting of the Douglas County Board of Education. Welcome everybody this evening. And the first part of our public meeting is each week we do student and staff recognition. So I will turn that over to our superintendent, Dr. Fagan, and Vice President of the Board, Kevin Larson, to hand out the awards this evening.
Okay, good evening. The Board of Education is always proud to recognize the achievements of our students and staff. We begin tonight with 2 honors for Rock Canyon High School. Several Douglas County schools raise money for Make-A-Wish every year. In fact, DCSD alone raised more than $100,000 this school year. One school, however, really stands out. Let's have the Rock Canyon High School Student Council and Principal Andy Abner come up so we can recognize them. Okay, this is the 3rd year in a row that Rock Canyon High School has broke Make-A-Wish's state record, this time giving the nonprofit a check for more than $60,000. That amount also broke the Kids for a Wish record at the national level. The donation was enough to cover dream vacations for 8 sick children, including a 10-year-old featured in this picture. Thanks to Rock Canyon's generosity, Mara was able to go on a Disney cruise, and it also helped other children go to places including Hawaii and Disneyland. To give you an idea of how big-hearted the Rock Canyon students and community are, during the opening assembly of Wish Week in March, the students kicked things off by giving more than $8,000 during the Miracle Minute. Congratulations to the Rock Canyon Student Council and the rest of the school for being a leader in our community. So you can each introduce yourself, if you don't mind.
Hi, I'm Casey Sabados, and I'm a freshman.
I'm Kate Bertline, I'm the student council sponsor.
My name is Demery, and I'm a junior.
I'm Andrew, and I'm a sophomore.
My name's Amy, and I'm a junior.
My name's Alexis Svensson, and I'm a senior.
I'm Courtney Fromm, I'm a senior.
I'm Andy Zimmerman, and I'm an assistant supervisor.
Thanks. So I just have to ask, how do you get students to give $60,000 and $8,000 in 1 minute? Anybody want to answer that? What do you think?
So our Wish Week started when we were freshmen, and it was kind of a guinea pig year for us, and we kind of bounced ideas off of each other, and actually talking to other schools as well at different student council conventions and stuff, and asking, what worked with you guys for fundraising, and it's either a hit or a miss, and we found a lot of different things have really brought the school together. Making the kids feel unified definitely helps them.
You want to say anything? Nope. You say anything? Nope. How about Mr. Adams?
Well, dodgeball is definitely one that brings it.
So the key is dodgeball.
The key is
I think there's a movie about that. Well, congratulations. We are very proud of the accomplishment that you all have and for raising this money for these children. This is a big point of pride for the Douglas County School District, so thank you.
Can we all run together over here?
If I have
All right, here we go, guys. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Great, okay. I think we're good, but I don't know if Mr. Abner gets to go or not. Okay, you wait right there. Rock Canyon's Wish Week was actually the inspiration for the next group of students who were recently honored by Verizon Wireless. Let's have the winners of the 2013 Verizon Innovation App Challenge Award from Rock Canyon High School come up. Okay. The challenge was created by the Verizon Foundation in partnership with the Technology Student Association to help boost student engagement and interest in science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM. When the students first began creating their Caring Hands app, they had Wish Week in mind, but eventually decided to expand the focus, allowing mobile users to donate to a wide variety of charities. Verizon Wireless executives came to the school just a couple of weeks ago to present a big check. We've got a video that captures that moment.
Let's go ahead and call up our 5 winners.
This day has been pretty exciting.
It's a $10,000 check from Verizon Wireless Foundation. Thank you very much, Rock Canyon High School. Thank you.
We never expected to win.
At first, it was like, I knew we had a great idea, I knew I had a great group of kids, and they were really passionate about their app and their design.
And then once we found out we won, we never expected to have all of the media coverage. It was originally an app for Wish Week or Make-A-Wish. Wish Week is huge at Rock Canyon. We've set 3 national records in the past 3 years, and it's basically the most fun week in the entire year because students get involved in the community, and it's not because they have to, it's really because they want to. As we were sitting there thinking about it, Jordan came up with the idea. He's like, why can't we make this applicable to all charities all over the world and attempt to make a community that is bettering the entire world?
This is giving back to the community. It's doing more, and it's doing it through technology.
I'm pretty excited about that actually, because I get to go and say, hey people, I'm in an app.
That is super cool.
We are idols at Rock Canyon, especially in the technology department, and the fact that we're going to be working with them to make an app that we designed, there are no words for it. It's amazing.
As a parent in the school system, I can't be more excited about what we were able to do here and be able to see the kind of innovation that's coming out of our high schools. These students are going to be world-class students coming out of the Colorado area.
My real goal is to get them to apply their learning. I mean, I think that's the greatest experience that we can give them here.
And we hope to hire these individuals one day. Great job.
Wow, that's amazing. So, in addition to the $10,000 check for STEM learning at the school, each student received a certificate and a Samsung Galaxy tablet. Plus, in the next few weeks, the team will get to work with Verizon Wireless and Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, to design and bring the app to market. Let's meet the team by having their advisor, Christy Street, who's here with us tonight, introduce all of the team members to us.
All right, so my name is Christy Street, and this is Jordan Peters, Adriana Maldonado, and Rohan Balan. And then tonight, the 2 students that are missing are Shivani Chowan and Deanne Apke.
Big congratulations to all of you. I'm thinking you didn't actually enjoy your TV appearance. And I just want you to know I can relate to this. So how was it being filmed?
It was a very different experience, and I was not prepared for it. But then we were told the day of we were going to be filmed, and then we were asked who's the most outgoing of the group, and everyone else just kind of goes like this. And so it fell to me, and I was like, all right, I'll try.
That's cool. So what did you think of the app development?
I thought it was really fun. It was a great process to see the group get together and combine all our ideas.
And I just have to ask, so how did you have the idea to take it from, your own school, Make-A-Wish at our own school, to something much bigger than that? Where did that come from?
So I just kind of got together with the rest of these guys and were like, all right, history presented us with a great idea, but let's make this better. Here's the few ideas I have. Then we all just started kind of bouncing off ideas off each other and refining it and making it what it was meant.
Wow, excellent job. Very, very good. And so do you know how to make apps, Miss Street?
Well, I better start learning, right? No,
As long as they
yeah, oh, right, yeah, as long as they can do it. No, yeah, definitely. We're already starting to learn working with tutorials, different app inventor and Android developer to make sure that we can develop this, and it's a great product for people to use.
Congratulations. Very well done. We're so proud of the work that you've done and the charities that it's for. Just all around a great project. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
we're gonna have Miss Street stay for one more time. This is an all rock canyon evening almost. Okay, on Sunday night, Ms. Street and one of her students, Shavani, she mentioned, is not able to be here tonight. Were honored by the National Center for Women in Technology. Shavani was named the 2013 Colorado Affiliate Award recipient, and Christy was awarded the organization's Aspirations in Computing Educator Award. Congratulations to you on that also.
That's good. All right, one more time.
Okay.
Sorry.
You have to hold both of them.
Okay, here we go.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Very well done. Okay, next we're moving on to honor one of our departments, providing an example in excellence and transparency. If the folks from purchasing would mind coming up. I know Ron McCauley's here. I didn't know if he brought, he did, brought friends. Okay, the purchasing department recently earned their Excellence in Procurement recertification from the National Institute of Government Purchasing, and this is the award up here on the screen. In order to receive this endorsement, agencies are required to go through a rigorous evaluation and benchmarking process, some of which requires detailed documentation assessing everything from purchasing standards to the selection of source companies and to its auditing and cooperative purchasing practices. All the district's buyers are NIGP certified, a major accomplishment in itself. While NIGP's membership includes more than 2,600 governmental agencies throughout the United States and Canada, only 77 of those 2,600 are currently accredited at this level. And the Douglas County School District has kept the certification continuously for 12 years now. Congratulations.
Okay.
Congratulations, Purchasing Department. And Ron, you can't go, you have to stay. You're supposed to make a face, Ron. Okay, so I'm having Ron stay up here so I can talk a little bit more about him. In addition to the performance of the Purchasing Department, as a whole, we would like to recognize the leadership of its director, Ron McCauley. Today, Ron is the president of the Association of School Business Officials International. You may remember that we talked about that a little bit last year. International ASBO, as it is known, is the premier professional organization providing support, professional development, and the identification and dissemination of school businesses' best practices throughout the world. Prior to becoming president, Ron was elected as the vice president in the spring of 2011, and after serving the Colorado chapter of the organization for more than 15 years. Last week, CASBO honored Ron with the Service to the Profession Award, which celebrates his leadership within the Douglas County Schools, within his profession, and his commitment to the professional development of his staff. Congratulations to Ron McCauley for exemplifying the high caliber of work and achievement in financial management we expect in Douglas County School District. Congratulations. Okay, that concludes our Purchasing Rock Canyon evening tonight. Congratulations, Principal Andy Abner and Ron McCauley in the Purchasing Department. Yeah, we do. That was excellent.
You look good on TV, though.
Okay, next we have a couple of reports on initiatives in the district. Superintendent reports. We had a choice programming update from Dr. Cutter and a budget update from esteemed CFO, Ms. Clement. Gina.
So tonight we're going to start with, as you know, we often provide board updates on items that are in our strategic plan to just keep you apprised of the progress on each item. and the work that we're doing, and then entertain any questions, etc. So tonight we'd like to provide an update on choice programming. As you know, the strategic plan has choice as one of its 3 priorities. Within that priority, there are many, I think 27 different strategies on choice. Some of them get more attention than others. And tonight we're going to provide an update on multiple items. So with that, I'd like to introduce Dr. Christian Cutter, Assistant Superintendent Elementary, and he'll introduce members of his team.
All right, good evening. Tonight as you know, the strategic plan tackles several things around choice. We're going to update you on some of the more cumbersome, more involved, more several-year plan ideas that are part of this. The choice programming now resides in the PK-12 Education Department. I'd like to introduce Dr. Brian Hodges. He has taken the lead in terms of working with a lot of the schools as they have started to move towards meeting the needs of their constituents.
There we go. Yeah, this might be one of those careful what you ask for type of deals. Super excited about the work that we're doing on choice. As you know, Douglas County Schools, we have embraced school choice by offering a wide variety of pathways to learning, including comprehensive neighborhood schools, magnet schools, charter schools, online learning, homeschooling, as well as the work that we're doing in the contract schools. Our goal is to provide every student with multiple opportunities to find their niche so that they can maximize their opportunities for success. And we saw some of that around campus. We saw some of that opportunity where technology is a drive for some of those kids, and so they embrace that and let's go ahead and tee up those out. The instructional choices, and I focus on the word instruction tonight, as Dr. Fagan said, we have lots of different things going on. But when we speak about choice, we're really trying to focus on how is the choice that parents make driven by instruction? What changes for that student in their learning? Choices we currently offer vary from Montessori, expeditionary learning, project-based learning, international baccalaureate, and it's all, as you saw tonight, some STEM things. Science, technology, engineering, math. Other instructional choices that are currently being developed include, but are not limited to, artful learning, environment-based education, agriculture ed at the elementary level, which is new for us, a teacher in residence school, and we have one of our feeder schools looking at a program called AVIT, Advancement by Individual Determination, that they would do as a complete feeder. And within some of our schools, we offer additional choices of students with programs like the Culinary Arts Program at Thunder Ridge High School, and as Annie Abner will tell you, the firefighting program at Rock Canyon High School, he and I just talked tonight, we have students from all schools coming to participate in that program, as well as next year he's going to have a student from Heritage High School hopefully join that program as well. So we're bringing kids from around Colorado to Douglas County Schools, and that's what ultimately we want. In Douglas County Schools, we've taken a systems approach to offering choice to our families and students by empowering every school to achieve a desired state of offering differentiated instructional methods. We'll be able to meet the goals to provide each student a world-class education. In order to accomplish this, we have designed a 3-phase process of helping schools communicate their unique qualities of their school so that students, employees, parents, and the community know what that school offers. Example of a phase 1 school is Cougar Run. Cougar Run Elementary School is located in North Central Highlands Ranch. Established in 1996, Cougar Run has been a traditional Douglas County neighborhood school, providing an excellent education for its constituents for 17 years. Over that time, Cougar Run has been meeting the needs of the majority of those students who live within the Cougar Run attendance area. But what we've seen with Cougar Run is as more school choices have become available to families in Douglas County, especially in Highlands Ranch, it has become apparent that Cougar Run needs to clearly articulate who they are and how instruction happens at the school. It is important to note that we're not asking any school to pick a program. We're not saying you need to go do this, you need to go do that. Or label themselves as IB, or label themselves as artful learning. But what we are saying is that every staff member, every person in that school, parents as well, if they were given an opportunity, if they were given the elevator speech, climbed in with a stranger, and they were going from floor 1 to floor 5 in any given building, that they could clearly articulate who the school is and how kids are educated at that school. So the focus is, and should be, on instruction. In the case of Cougar Run, they're working through a process to identify who they are, what are the things they do really well, what are the needs of the stakeholders, and their opportunities that they need to implement in order to provide success for those students. So Cougar Run is in the process of looking at a number of opportunities to fit their needs. We took a look at the artful learning approach. We looked at dual language. We're saying we have a lot of ESL students in our school. Perhaps we're not meeting their needs. Right now, we have several of our schools. Carrie Stevenson at Sage Canyon Elementary really took the lead on project-based learning. That's one of the things that interested John Gutierrez and his team. And some of the other pieces that they're looking at is STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. So what does that look like? And they're in that phase 1 process of truly identifying who they are. Phase 2 schools. Phase 2 schools are schools that identified who they are and the direction they're going. For example, 2 years ago, Dr. Fagan hosted a fair of sorts where she exposed principals to different learning methodologies. At that fair, Patty Magby, principal of Meadowview Elementary, discovered several different methodologies that she thought would be a viable choice for Meadowview. While Patty had a passion for one, she knew that she had to understand the needs of her stakeholders. What Patty did was she got with her students first, and she said, "Tell me what you like about school." And in typical fashion, the kids said, "I like math." And we said, "Really?" And they said, "Well, we really like reading." And we said, "Really?" And then we said, "What about PE?" "Oh, yeah, we like PE." "What about lunch?" "Yeah, we like lunch, it's all right." "What about recess?" "Yes, that's what we like, we love recess." We said, "What do you like about recess?" And then they got deeper in there. And they said, "If we could do math while we're on recess, wow, that would be cool. If we could do math while we were in art, or we could have art while we were in math, that would be cool." And so as we dug deeper and really got to the heart of where those kids' niche was and where they enjoy learning, that's where Patty adopted and said, really, the artful learning approach is what we need. And we went to the kids first, and then went to the parents. And as we talked to parents and showed the parents the data about how their kids learn, the kids said things like, "We want our halls to look like Hogwarts. We want to have really cool places to read. We want to be able to have whiteboards all over where we can just scribble and we can throw our ideas up there." It goes back to this young man at Rock Canyon who said, an idea was planted, and then he got an opportunity to be creative about it. The teacher planted the seed, but then the students were the ones that took off with it. So after choosing artful learning under Patty's leadership, Meadowview will be training staff this summer, marketing, and opening next year as an artful learning school. This is a Douglas County school where the guaranteed viable curriculum will be delivered through different means of art media. As Patty worked through the process, though, one of the elements in the process led us to identify that her implementation of artful learning, these students here, are going to eventually matriculate to the middle school. And we realized that in our choice programming, we have to make sure that we're offering at the middle school those same types of things that those kids are getting at their elementary experience. So in turn, Patty is working with Terry Olson, the principal at Castle Rock Middle School, who has recognized that this matriculation is going to happen. And so he's worked with Dr. Mark Schaefer, the director of middle schools, and they've taken a team out to Portland, Oregon, where they saw artful learning happening at the middle school. And so now Terry has a team that's going to be training with Patty's team, and so now we'll have a whole feeder approach to artful learning. And the beautiful thing about this is that at Castle View High School, Jim Calhoun, the principal there, already has an art approach in one of their academies. So it's a very seamless transition. So this is an example of a Phase 2 school that has identified who they are and working through the process so that they can clearly articulate what that looks like as they move forward. Just as an aside, this is going to be about a 3-year official process before they become stamped as artful learning. But from there, then we should be able to train our own schools as we move forward. So schools are examples of Phase 3, and this is ultimately where we want every school to be. We want every school to be in a Phase 3 where they can articulate who they are, how education happens, and then get into what will be a very seamless process of continuous quality improvement. Every year, using their Unified Improvement Plan and those other pieces, they'll be able to say, this is a tweak we're making this year, but this is who we are. So examples of that are Lone Tree. Highly effective teaching instruction happens there. It's a Susan Kovalik approach. Students are engaged in global action projects. Most of you are experienced with Renaissance Magnet School. It was our first magnet school in the district. Expeditionary learning is now taking off. We have Fox Creek Elementary School looking at expeditionary learning. Also then we're saying, well, so what does that look like as middle school students? How are they going to matriculate from expeditionary learning to middle, and then what might that look like in high school? As you know, we have several IB schools, Rockridge Elementary, Southridge Elementary. They feed into Mesa Middle School, which feeds into Douglas County High. We also have the schools in the Thunder Ridge feeder, and this year in Phase 1 is Roxborough Intermediate and Roxborough Primary. They are working on their IB certification to round out the elementary component of the Thunder Ridge feeder. Sedalia is another great example of a school that took an approach from McCrell called Success in Sight, where they identify where their gaps are with kids, and using a process called fractals, where they break down the individual components, they focus then on how they can meet the needs of those students. And then, as I mentioned before, Castle View High School is a school in Phase 3 where they have their academies. Kids know what direction they're going to and within that school, and so they really focus on what that student's interest is. The other piece that we've identified with choice is that it's not just about students, and it's not just about parents, it's about staff. Dr. Fagan once said, I want staff to race to work as fast as they race home. And Jim Collins will tell you, it's not just about having the right people on the bus, it's about having the right people on the right seats in the bus. An example of this, and not only just teachers, but principals and leadership as well. An example of this is we have several teachers at Meadowview Elementary School who, as we went through the artful learning approach, said, that's not me. I don't think I can do that successfully. And so we've worked with them, we've coached them, and several of them have gotten jobs in other buildings, whether it be at a project-based learning school, where we said, what's the right fit? Because we want them to have choices as well, and we want them to race to work. So what's the future look like? Again, it's about finding the right niche, the right motivation, the right learning style, and interest of each and every student. It's about differentiation and innovation to get 21st century learners actively engaged in what's happening now and excite them about the future. Moving forward, we have several things that we're working on. I'm working with the communications department. We're talking about how we can update the choice link. We have several dates on there that have come and gone, and we hit most of those benchmarks, but now we need to go to Phase 3 with that. We need to update that. We're looking at creating and updating our selector tool that's on the website, creating and updating a choice catalog. We found that we still have lots of parents that say, even though I know it's on the web, I want something in my hands. I want a tangible piece that I can look through. We're refining the phase process, and we're going to be working with schools on their phase identification. Dr. Carter, did you pass that out to folks?
Yeah.
Part of what you have in your handout is our first blush at where schools are in that phase process. And we'll be working with them this summer, giving them some training on if you're in phase 1, what are those steps that you should be doing? What are those things you can't fail to do? Moving to phase 2 and then ultimately moving to phase 3. As well as Randy and Cinnamon have some great ideas about capturing video of each school so that a parent can go on and clearly see what that school is about. So that's the choice work that we're doing, providing each child the maximum opportunity for success.
Now, we have so many choices and so many things going on in the district right now that it would be impossible to do them all. Dr. Hodges highlighted several that are quite interesting and quite fun to be part of. As you can see, almost every school over the last 3 years has taken the opportunity to talk to their community, talk to their stakeholders. What do we need to deliver to make this the choice for students? And you can see there are varying degrees. The first couple of pages show you basically just a draft chart that we put together over the past couple of months since taking on the choice programming that we have people doing. We have high schools that have been doing academies for quite a few years. They've had career paths. Now we have career technical ed. We imagine that will be an ever-evolving part of the choice we offer. When something comes up that we don't offer, that we recognize there's a need for, or that students would benefit for, we actually will make an attempt to put that in place in an appropriate designation. You heard the alignment piece. As we go through these choice initiatives, we are sensitive to the alignment that these students need to be able to continue their passion, not just in elementary or middle, but all the way through high school. So as we work with these schools, they in turn are working in their feeders to talk about what they are providing and what they can do to meet the needs of their kids. For a visual purpose, we put them on our maps, just so you can have a sense of how many different things are already going on. They're color-coded thanks to Dr. Hodges. That pink is that phase 1 piece, and you can see that there are a lot more greens and blues. This has been something that has been building over the past 3 years since the strategic plan was created. So as we go, that is not a document that's going to be accurate for very long. It was created simply for the purpose of this presentation, because we will continue to add these things, and they will vary, and they will move through the process of these phases. And those pinks will become greens, and those greens will become blues, and we will have a whole new list of schools, because it's never really ending if we're going to provide choice in terms of just there's no end of providing choice. That's what I'm trying to spit out here.
All right, do we have any questions or comments from the board? Director Richardson.
A couple of questions. We are 2 years into our strategic plan. It looks like there are still a number of elementary schools that are in the to be determined category. Do we have a date certain by which they're going to have a choice?
They'll all be on board. They'll all be able to say, we're working on this, and even if it's just, we're a great neighborhood school, this is what that means, that'll all be done by the summer. So everybody should be moving through phase 1 this summer.
Gotcha. And my second question is, I thought it was a great lineup of phase 3 elements, who they are, how education happens in this continuous quality improvement piece. Is that going to be captured in our selector?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Denver Public Schools has a pretty good, real quick list, somewhat like this, and we think that we can take that, make it much better. We can take what we've done in our phases so that parents can say, oh, we get that they're doing this. We understand that this is who they are. For example, Southbridge Elementary School, an international baccalaureate school. They're really a phase 3 school with regard to international baccalaureate. They're really getting that right now, even though they've only been doing that for 2 years. What we've identified is that we probably need to be doing some dual language over there. So Tina Gaddis, the principal over there, is now starting a phase 1 for dual language about how that fits into IB. And so that selector tool would identify that. People would go to their website, and our goal with Randy, with Cinnamon, is to have some videos around that. update that, and constantly communicate where they are in that process.
Director Larson.
This is quite an array, really. And what I like is that it's not just, and I think it needs to start there. The parents and the students need to find the school that's right for them. But I like what you talked about too. The staff, the teachers have to be in an environment that's the right fit for them too. And you touched on how some of them are able to find placement elsewhere. How fluid is that right now, and how defined is it to know, okay, if I'm a project-based learning teacher, do I have all the opportunities? How are we making that smooth or able to be plugged in? Whereas some of these are still being identified, or do we have an inventory of how many teachers we have that are more bent for that, or are we retraining teachers, or our teachers trying to find a way to modify? They may have a propensity to one, but they want to try another one and explore what's going on in that.
Principals are greedy creatures. They like to keep their best, right? And they don't want anybody to go away. Brian Caesar and I talked, and we have a plan. We couldn't pull it off this year, but we have a plan for next year of having an in-district hiring fair, where just like Dr. Fagan exposed principals to here's the different pieces out there, we would open up and we'd have every school there. And people could come and say, I didn't even know that existed. Because as we were working with, as I gave the example of staff at Meadowview, I stood in front of them, and as Aspen View Academy opens, I said, you need to go where you're going to be happy. You need to go where your strengths will play out best. So what does that look like? And so we want to open that up to everybody in the district. We're not saying you have to change, but there's a lot of people, when you talk to our staff, they've been at their school 13, 14 years, and they don't realize that, wow, I didn't know that. I love to teach math. One of our teachers at Meadowview said, I love to teach math. If I could do that all day, what would that look like? Well, she got a job at one of our middle schools. And now what she gets to do is teach math all day long. She didn't realize she could do that at middle school as 6th graders. How cool is that? So we want to expose, we want to open that up, and we want to have teachers be able to come and say, I like that. I think I'd like to work at that school. Same thing, we're looking at our leadership to say, wow, you're really good at this. We think you'd be a good fit at that school. So we're developing processes to figure out how we can make that right seat on the bus.
So what you're telling me is that we're trying to expand choice for the teachers as well.
Absolutely.
And in terms, because I know a big part of this then is the leadership at the school working with its school community, the parents, the staff, and involved. Have you had any situations where an administrator, him or herself, sees that, well, what we're developing is a great model, but I'm one of these other ones. Are they going to migrate and move around as well?
Not yet. We haven't had that. Generally because, like he said, they're greedy around. They're also passionate about where they are, and they want to meet kids' needs. So if changing things up and doing right by them, their stakeholders, their staff, they're going to get on board. But if it was to become an issue or perhaps a question, we would certainly meet that need as well.
Thank you.
Director Mendoza.
Well, thank you for all your hard work. It's impressive. Are you planning to add the charter schools in this list? I don't see my children's school, American Academy, down here.
Yeah, we have not put that piece in yet. Part of what our next phase, and I thank you for that, I didn't have it up there, but we meet, Kendra Whitmire, who is our director, she meets with us on Tuesdays. And so part of this conversation then is also working with Kendra to say, do the charters want to be part of this? Would they like this training this summer? So that's on our list to do, work with Kendra.
Director Silverthorne.
This is really exciting. I love looking at all this and seeing where everybody is and where they want to be, and just kind of looking at all the different ideas that schools have. I noticed that Castle Rock Middle School seems kind of ambitious. They have a couple of different programs they might be pursuing. Can you talk a little bit about that in particular?
Yeah, Megan, that's a great question because two schools that really jumped out on us is Meadowview with Artful Learning, and one of the ones that you see with Larkspur Elementary School, Michael Morris, principal, said, did some research, and they're redefining themselves as an environment-based school. And so right out of the chute, a year from now, Terry Olson will have 2 groups of kids coming in that are going to learn differently. Then you have Kyle Sword, principal at Soaring Hall, who's looking at high-tech high for elementary. So now you have these middle schools who are going, oh my goodness, how are we going to accommodate all those needs? And so one of those pieces is that we said, we need to do that, but what is that going to look like? And it's going to be different for each middle school. And so that, again, is part of that training this summer for principals around, especially the middle school principals are going to be saying, how do I meet all those needs? And so we're going to have to put some pieces in place, and they're going to have to transition relatively quickly. And staffs are going to have to be trained to say, I might not teach completely to an artful approach, I might not teach completely to an environmental-based approach, but I can do some of these things with what I already do.
And at the middle school, they can do core teams. So it's not a school-wide initiative, for example, with Artful Learning. It might be just a team of 4 content teachers that would take those that really, it's almost like a high school model where you can start selecting at middle school in terms of your career pathway or your technical education. So that's why some of the middle schools, especially the one that feeds all 3 of the examples that Brian gave, looks ambitious.
It's a lot.
Well, I think that's really great. I think it encourages parents to choose the school instead of saying, oh, this is kind of where I live. And, if that works for a parent, that's great. But if they want to go somewhere, this is going to be a great map for them to say, hey, this is where I want my child to go.
And if we could make it digital or electronic at some point, that would, because we have a number of people who contact us before moving into the district, and we get emails in terms of, where should I go? Well, gosh, that's a huge question.
Right.
I mean, and you can tell how long it took us to walk through just a blush of some of the choices they have in this district. So we always kind of put it back on them, well, tell us about your kid. So, and then if they could do that virtually and have sort of a menu where they could describe their kid and then it helped them find that choice, and this is all technologically, phase 2. So wouldn't that be great?
Absolutely. Thank you.
I think we have an idea for a new app.
Per person. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you, Joe.
Thank you all.
Very good presentation. And so we have one more presentation, and we'll go to public comment. I know we have some Girl Scouts out there that have a exciting presentation, so we're almost there. We'll give you a little extra time.
All right, so next we're going to have a budget update by our Chief Financial Officer, Bonnie Betts. I'll turn it over to her.
Good evening, everybody. So tonight we were scheduled to present to you a preliminary budget for 2013 and 14. I thought by this time, because the news from the governor was so good back in November, that we would actually have a School Finance Act that would be relevant to 13-14. But as you know, there's been a lot of activity on the School Finance Act that's supposed to be relevant to 15-16, so there's been a lot of distraction. So I will be able to give you all the options that are out there right now regarding 13-14, but I'd like to just remind you of our status reflective of the current year, and then talk about some of the stuff we're doing in 2014 to kind of finish up the presentation. So it's not very long, but just to give you an update. So next. Oh, I just used my little thing. So, budget status. I did present this last time. We are in the process of totally scrutinizing our third quarter financial. Wanted to make sure that I had all of that information together before I presented that with you as well. I wanted to remind you that the third quarter ended March 31st, so that was just a couple of weeks ago. There is a lot of analysis that goes into trying to figure out where we really are, putting in the new revised budget, all of that. We will be presenting that to you the first meeting in May. So I just wanted to show the 2012 assign. We talked about that earlier today. These are all the values that we assigned at the end of 2012. And here is the update on what we actually spent out of these assignments. So the early separation agreement, that was that 5-year agreement we entered into back in 2008. And then the extended service severance, that was a planned phase out, giving teachers an opportunity to make their decisions by December of this year regarding whether they're going to take advantage of that or not. We had assigned $6 million. We spent through January $3 million of that. We now know that the liability is $6.4 million, so you will see that on the end of your financial for the current year, that we have to keep that in reserve to pay that out over time. We had a school discretionary one-time allocation of $125 per student. So we budgeted 6.4, we spent a little bit more than that because of student growth. We had the 2% retention stipend. We spent a tiny little bit less, not a bad projection, regarding our employees, and that was paid, if you remember, in September. And then finally, school and department carryover, we assigned $19.1 million. And as of the October count, we always do our true up, and that's when we award carryover. That's all been awarded back to our schools and departments. So totally of all the assignments we had, nearly $36 million has already been allocated out in the current year. Okay. So this was our year-end projection effective the second quarter. Again, this is what we're working on to update. I'm not going to go through this in a great detail. However, we are anticipating a restricted assigned fund balances of just under $37 million, and this $15 million represents your Board of Education policy. I'd like you to be prepared. You know, that is a policy that you're expecting. So in the last 2 years, we've actually had that as part of our unassigned fund balance. And we are scrutinizing the idea that maybe we really should assign that because it is relevant to board policy. So you may see a change in our fund balance. So therefore, our unassigned should be very small, you know, moving forward. Okay. So again, I wanted to remind everyone of some of these decisions, and some of these decisions occurred because of all of the work that all of us are doing system-wide. So first of all, 100% of department school carryover dollars we are assuming are going to be spent, because if they're not spent, they're just going to be assigned back to the school and departments. So we're not even going to try to guess how much they're spending. We did try to do that last year, and we were off by about $11 million based on the information that we got. So we're just going to assume that it's spent. It's not at the district's discretion. And I'd like to point out, too, that $19 million that's held in reserve, what a shame that would have been if $19 million was just spent haphazardly without people thinking and scrutinizing how they need to spend the money.
I just want to add that the reason that we were off is because we asked them how much they thought they would spend,
right,
and they gave us a figure,
right,
and so we used that figure, and then they didn't spend as much. They're very tight budgeters.
Yes, they are very tight budgeters.
So I just wanted to clear that up a little bit.
And the other thing too is we can't see it in our systems, and we do not have any encumbrance that lets us know that they're planning on spending it. So we do have to ask what they're anticipating. So, second item, 100% of contingency budget line spent. You're going to hear a lot about our capital needs over the next couple of meetings, and one of the things we're trying to decide is how can we mitigate recurring capital asset needs every year when we've eliminated budget transfer from the general fund into the capital fund. So one of the thoughts, we need to get through at least the next 2 or 3 years regarding meeting the most urgent needs of our capital facilities. So 100% of contingency budget line, we are assuming in our projections that it's going to be spent, because anything that's not going to be spent, we're going to transfer it into the capital fund. So you will see that transfer reflected in our final revised budget in June, as we're also adopting the budget for the new year. So just so you can anticipate that. And then finally, 100% of pay for performance. As you know, the pay for performance, system performance is a huge part of our strategic plan. So therefore, we really need to move forward and make sure that we're allocating resources for that. So any of these monies, we're trying to build that pot up so that we have available monies moving forward to pay for performance. So any of those monies not spent are going to stay in that pay for performance line. And that's new. That's something that we did a little bit going from 2011 to 2012, but we're going to recommend that as a standard operating procedure. Okay. So 2014 budget status. If you remember, talked about this in November, Governor Hickenlooper had this great proposal for us, which would have meant net about $210 per student for Douglas County. So total new dollars to us would have been $13 million, roughly $11.2 million to neighborhood schools and $1.8 million to our charter schools. Now also, we are expecting 1,300 to 1,500 new students. And I'm not saying every one of those new students is going to go to charter schools, but the net in and out, the net is that all of the new students would increase the charter school enrollment as opposed to hitting the district enrollment. So you don't see me accounting for any growth in the Douglas County School District. So the Legislative Council came out then in January, and they said, well, statute just says that we have to increase the base by inflation, which they established at 1.9%. So based on that proposal, our increase would have been $130 per student. Very disappointing, because we have seen over the last 2 years that the governor comes out with a proposal and the legislature makes it better, not worse. And so this was a little bit surprising. I just wanted to share all this with you because it's an indicator of the flux that's still existing and trying to make decisions regarding what our budget's going to look like in 2014. Okay. So this would have dropped us down $7 million, so 8.5 total, $7 million then to neighborhood schools, $1.5 million to charter schools. Again, the increase in funded pupil count a little bit higher than it was in Governor Hickenlooper's proposal. So finally, this is where we are as of today. This is Senate Bill 13260 coming out of the Senate Education Committee. So it has not gone through the Senate floor yet. We're still hopeful that this is going to get better. But right now, it's just under $160 per student. If you remember, Governor Hickenlooper's proposal was more like $220. Okay, so we're still lower than what we expected. But we're still hopeful that we can get up there. Total new dollars to Douglas County would be about $10 million, 8.6 to neighborhood schools, 1.4 to charter schools. And then in addition, this Senate bill calls for a $20 million increase to our special education, which is great because we have additional monies to absorb the growth we're expecting in our special education costs. So we could expect to see another $1.5 million of special education revenue in our state categorical. We expect that this will definitely stay, if not even improve, because it is widely known that we are grossly underfunded with our special education here in Colorado. So that's where we are today. Still not really certain, but hoping for the best. So, but this is still true. We made these commitments, just wanted to remind everyone. Our students, $11.6 million going back to our schools next year, $200 per student, $125 per student ongoing. That was $125 of one-time money last year, so now we're making it ongoing. And in addition, $75 per student one time. For our employees, a total of $9.7 million that we've committed, 2% salary increase, 1% one time right now, 1% ongoing. A para increase paid by the district is that $2.2 million we held in reserve to go into 14. There is a slight medical benefit increase. We are absorbing that at $1.5 million for all full-time employees. And then finally, we've made the decision that our parents needed some help, and so we're giving back $1.2 million to eliminate the $25 per student technology fee that we've been charging over the last 2 years. Okay. That's still in existence, and we still feel very confident that we're okay, and we believe it will definitely be better from this. So, budget increase requests. It was great to hear about all of these choices. And one of the things that's really important is that when you are offering opportunities to reinvent yourself, you have to make sure that you as a district are committed to providing the resources that they need in order to do that. So one of the things that we did this year is in our student-based budgeting worksheets, we added a tab, we called it Program Improvement. So we're asking those schools that are looking at the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 implementation of a new choice program to please put it on those program improvement, to please put it in the Program Improvement tab. And we'd like them to estimate out 3 to 5 years, because implementation is usually a one-time cost, but it's a one-time cost for several years. So Meadowview, which is in their phase 2, as well as Larkspur, they were very disciplined in doing that. We have their requested costs. And so now moving forward, it would probably be a good idea for us to have an ongoing budget line that would meet those needs, so that every year as you transition into schools entering that phase 1 or that phase 2, you already have budget dollars available. Where one falls off, you get to pick up a new school to start them on their implementation plan. So again, we're trying to make sure that as we move through our strategic plan, that we're absolutely allocating out our resources applicable to that strategic plan. So I just named some of these. I got lucky with artful learning and this environmental focus, which was Larkspur. The high-tech high model, I did not know was going to go into elementary, but I did know that Castleview High School was working on that. The other things we talked about, school security. We know that that's been a big focus for us. We have a school security committee that's been working on that for the last 3 or 4 months. Special education, I talked about that a little bit. Just wanted to remind you that every year we do expect about 1,500 new students, and our population is about 10% special education. A special education student has an excess cost of about $10,000 per student. So that's about a $1.5 million increase in special education costs that we can expect every year. Again, we do have federal funds to help mitigate that. Categorical funding goes up a little bit because we have a higher student population. So we're looking at all of those things to determine how much money we need next year to operate our school district. And then finally, additional pay increases. We're totally looking at this because, again, the single most important thing that impacts the education achievement of our students is the quality of the teacher in the classroom. So it's very important that additional pay increases be part of this assessment as we're going through time. So right now we're in the throes of looking at all these program improvement requests, figuring out how much we have, and deciding what we can improve going into next year. And you will have more of that information at our next board meeting. So, next steps, third quarter financial and the preliminary budget will be to you the first meeting in May. Proposed budget will be in the second meeting in May. Then we will adopt in June. Again, you will see the final revised budget in June, reflective of the changes that have occurred throughout this spring in the current year. Okay, that's all I have.
So I thank you for that presentation, and once again points out that we're the highest performing school district. We operate on the lowest per pupil allocation of any major school district in the Denver metro area. A lot of people don't know that. The funding formula gives us the lowest allocations of funds of any school district. And because of the sound budgeting practices of you and the superintendent and the leadership of the district, we have been able to maintain the highest level of bond rating in the state, which is saving our taxpayers millions of dollars. I wanted to ask you about the $10 million of increased pay and benefits that you highlighted up there.
You want me to go back to it?
Sure. I have heard that the head of this union, which has no longer has chosen to no longer work constructively with the school district, the head of this has said that this $10 million here is a mirage. It's a mirage, I guess, was the description of it. How would you, I'm sure our taxpayers and parents would love to know that $10 million in increased benefits, which is probably about the best of the state, is a mirage.
I haven't much to say about that. These numbers are real, I'm not lying.
They're actually real.
Sure.
$10 million in increased pay and benefits. Sure. And you're saying that more is likely or possibly coming in the next several months, as soon as we
the next several weeks.
Next several weeks.
A very short time, yeah.
As soon as we get the updated numbers.
Right.
So that will mark the second year now running where we've been able to increase pay, benefits for our great teachers in covering the entire amount of the increased cost in para-retirement benefits, correct?
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Yes, Director Richardson.
Could you go back to the slide, I think one of the slides that captured the original Governor Hickenlooper proposal of, was it $220?
Right.
You know, for our critics who think that we should spend our, as a matter of policy, that we're managing a $15 million cushion, as fiduciaries, we think that's prudent in an uncertain future where we could have macroeconomic shocks that change what we get from the state. You know, you could have a Cyprus, a North Korea, any number of things that are exogenous events that change our world financially. I think this slide and the series of slides where you literally talk about the volatility of the expected dollars we receive from the state over just a fairly short period of time, 3 or 4 months. I think I saw 220, then Legislative Council went down to 130. Now the politicians under the dome have settled on 159. And so I think that illustrates very profoundly how little control we have over a major portion of our revenues, and why it's really prudent not to do, as prior administrations in this district have done, spend to zero, and then you have a choice of looking for the coins in the sofa or laying people off and disrupting the programmatic stability of the educational environment for our kids. So I think you've made a very, I'm sure it wasn't necessarily your intent in those slides, but you've actually made a very
No, it was intentional.
illustrative point about the volatility of these exogenous numbers that change our financial picture dramatically, and against which we have developed this policy of managing to a $15 million cushion so we aren't presented with such stark choices when the world changes. For the life of me, I can't imagine why folks think that we should spend to zero and then just hope for the best.
And I think that Dr. Fagan has said this more than once. We want to make sure that we have the money and then we allocate it out.
Director Larson.
A few questions. When we were talking about how difficult it is to quantify how much each school or department has in carryover, but when parents or members of the community want to find out, certainly when they go and participate at the school level, they can find that out from the principal. Is that going to be the best approach to, if you're concerned, hey, what does my particular high school have, to get involved and get that disclosed at that level rather than try to have the district inventory the centralized list?
Right, so one of the things that is known by our school accountability committees is that when we do award the carryover in November, they know how much it was in November. So then they have an ability to ask the questions of their school leadership team. Okay, how much are you planning on spending, and what did you spend it on? And then how much do you think you're going to have carried over into the following year, so that we know how much we have. We have, in addition to our SBB allocation. That's the best way to get that information right now. In the past, we've been able to encumber purchase orders that indicate how much a school is planning on spending, but we have gone to a P-card system for all kinds of very good reasons. So therefore, you only see what's spent monthly when it actually hits our books. So that's one of the difficulties of trying to track how much is carried over. However, I'm convinced that we can figure it out sooner, and that's what we're working on for the third quarter financial as well.
Okay. I like the idea of assigning the unassigned, the portion of unassigned, which
The
would
board's
be
reserve. The board's reserve.
as a reserve, because it's really, unassigned sounds a little nebulous, and it sounds like it's not being used for anything, and it really does have an intended purpose. So I think having that delineated as such is smart policy, and it's honest policy, and I think it's reflective of more responsible analysis, and that it's there to handle contingencies. Sometimes, I mean, a board reserve is different than a table reserve in several ways. Stop me if I get it wrong, but I think even a decade ago, and I think it was St. Vrain that had the state treasurer intervene, and they didn't even use the table reserve. It's really almost a liquidation fund if that were the event that was going on. So even under, so far we haven't had any dire enough circumstances to actually have those table reserves tapped, is that correct?
Right, and the only thing I can think of here in Colorado might be a tornado that could knock out a building. And so, but even if that were to occur, we'd still have to replace the funds within a year. So for all intents and purposes, it's not liquid at all. So to that point though, when we did begin funding it with cash, so we allowed the letter of credit to lapse. So we saved $160,000 right then because we weren't paying any fees. So that was a 2% fee on top of the value of the letter of credit. And then in addition, because it's hardly ever can be used, we decided to invest it in an investment that's better than what we're getting from our bank, so that we've actually swung it around to saving $320,000. Now that's not a lot of money, but it's $320,000 more, and we get to spend that. So we really are focusing on, if we can't use it really, then let's put it to work for us. And it is, $13 million. So we're actually going to bring to you a resolution probably in June as well to update that or to reinvest those monies again with a new resolution. So you should be prepared for that as well.
Okay. I just on that point, I think it's important to note, though, I mean, as illiquid as that fund essentially is in practice, we have huge legal constraints on our ability in how we can invest that. So it's not like we can take that illiquid asset and invest it in a way that reflects its illiquidity and get a higher return. For example, buy bonds in Brazil, which would be risky. And so we're by law confined to a relatively risk-averse spectrum of the investment portfolio, as perhaps we should be. But the fact that you're able to put that to work and at least get somewhat a higher return than being in a savings account is, I think, worth noting.
Right, so then that is 20 basis points up to 70 basis points. So I can say that we've got 100% more cash, like capital income.
Another point or question, as I've had conversations with people that are in the community, parents or community members, that often the last thing that we have that's audited and published is the previous year's CAFR, and that's reflective of funds that were present on June 30th. And as you just demonstrated earlier in your presentation, a good number of those dollars have been used this year. And I'm looking forward to soon a third quarter update. I don't know if in the financial world you hear words like dashboard, and I hate to just reduce everything to something like that, but just as what I had in my checking account on June 30th last year is about as irrelevant tonight, in terms of where I am, as our June 30th number was to the district. We need some at least quarterly or some more frequent picture, and I know you're already projecting where we think it will be at the end of this year. How much work is that now, and what would help improve that ability to have that laid out and have, I actually printed a separate page 76 of last year's CAFR, which has all those fund balances, that at any point in time within reason, not continuous maybe, but some frequency of showing what they are, and we could chart where they've been used in the current year so people get that sense of confidence, oh, these have been used and invested, and other than hearing it at a board meeting, how would we have access to that?
So a couple of things. We are investigating various reports that would allow us to report out monthly, but it would have to be canned, and we'd have to put a whole bunch of caveats in there because we wouldn't have time to do the analysis that really indicates where we truly are. Also, keep in mind that our budget changes from the state of Colorado throughout the year. So we'd have to keep up with our budget changes as well as our expenditure changes. And so it's a difficult task. And I sincerely believe that our first quarter and our second quarter really have very little relevance because there's not enough of the year gone by. That's why we're spending so much time on the third quarter, because it truly will give us the appropriate picture for what's going to happen at the end of this year.
Okay. And and I think ballpark, that's why you have an annual audit. You really tighten everything to the fine level there. But in between, at least having a good sense of where are we, I think those of us who get entwined in it frequently and often feel we have a good handle on it, but I think sharing that with the rest of the world, one conversation at a time is difficult, and if we do have some mechanism, some means of reports, albeit with caveats, might help in that regard. And then the last question, in terms of the different levels of funding from the governor's proposal to the I noticed the funded pupil count it actually decreased. Could you explain?
It's changing. So one of the things that happens when the final budget bill is approved by the legislature is we get an email from CDE that says, this is what we have for your increase in funded pupil count. So can you confirm or say no? And so at that point, we have an ability to say, well, this is our projection. We're closer to it, and generally speaking, if CDE is higher, we let CDE's number stay because of cash flow reasons. But if our number is higher, we tell them, we really believe it's going to be this, and so we'd really like you to update that. They give us a interest-free loan anyway, so it's not a cash issue for them. They plan on that, so they usually do put in our projection. So yes, they're fluctuating right now, and it's also fluctuating because the governor's proposal had an increase in the kindergarten FTE going from 0.58 to 0.596. That inflated the funded pupil count increase. And so there's a lot of those details that are within each proposal that change that as well. But by the time we get the final act, we have that final say to say we really think our student count is going to be such, and then it stays constant until October.
So of the 1357 and the 1302, which one do we think is?
We think it's more.
We think it's more than
both
both
of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll have that chance to.
And we'll have that chance to
Ruben,
make
okay.
sure that we have the cash flow we need. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
You bet.
Any other comments? Questions? Okay, thank you, Bonnie, for that presentation. And we have board president, vice president, and board member committee and liaison reports next, and then we'll have public comment. I did want to recognize board member emeritus Ryan Stewart is in the audience, and I'll recognize him. I understand he'd like to make a couple of comments, so I will yield to him during my president's report. I will say that Ryan has, come on up if you'd like to. Ryan has gone on to be a judge here in Colorado, was appointed by Governor Hickenlooper recently to be a judge in Jefferson County, and we followed his career over the last few years since he was required to resign from the board because of that judicial position, but he mentioned to me he would like to make a few comments. So Ryan, go ahead.
Thank you, President Carson. I think I just left a pen here. That's the only reason I was here. Director Richardson, can you just check in your desk? Oh, okay. No, really, I didn't come to make any political statement or anything like that. I'm not permitted as a judicial officer. My reason for coming today was simply to make a simple statement of thank you. Thank you to the Douglas County School District for what you've done for my children. By being appointed in Jefferson County, unfortunately my family had to move to Jefferson County, but we have choiced in. We've made the choice to send our kids here to Douglas County because the schools here are so great. It begins with the teachers in this district, goes on to the staff, people in departments, and people like you'll hear from Dr. Cosgrove and other people, other staff around the district, and all the way up to the superintendent and her cabinet. My children go to one of those phase 3 schools that Dr. Hodges talked about, Renaissance Expeditionary. We live in Littleton. My wife drives a half hour each way, twice a day, to take her kids to Choice Inn, to Douglas County, to Choice Inn because of the options that you have provided, not only to Douglas County, but to people who live now outside of Douglas County. And so I just wanted to say thank you, and thank you for your time, President Carson.
Well, thank you. Thanks for coming by, Ryan. Good to see you again.
I could just say, I think, based on what you've all heard, we had a serious downgrade when I was selected to replace you. So, great. Thank you for your public service in terms of bringing justice to our state.
I'll just add a word of thanks. I was not on the board during the time you served, but I want to thank you for the service, Brian, that you provided when you were here, and for creating a legacy of the direction that we started and want to continue. Thank you for that.
All right, I did have one other item I want to mention in my report, and it's certainly sad news, but one of our friends, Stephen Wright, who had become very involved in our school district's activities, passed away several weeks ago, died from complications from a stroke, and we want to remember his wife, Monica. He leaves behind 4 children, Garrett, Hannah, Abigail, and Peyton. And I know that there's an event Friday to support his family. Megan, I think, is working on that. I plan to attend and encourage everybody to go. Do you have some details on that, Megan, you want to share with us?
Sure. If anyone is inclined to attend or to donate or anything, it is at the Southridge Rec Center on this Friday, from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So you don't have to be there at 5, you can just stop by whenever you have time during the evening. There will be silent auction items, there will be a dessert auction, there will be a spaghetti dinner. You can choose however you wish to contribute. There is, right now, the auction items are online, so if you can't attend but you still wish to help out, then I can send out the link and we can post it wherever. There's plenty of opportunities. So if you are free, and I have also asked you already about donating a dessert. There is an elected officials dessert auction. So Senator Harvey is doing the other half of that. So if you guys have the capability to donate, I would love to talk to you. So if you can attend, then please do. And if you can otherwise donate but can't attend, that's fine also. We just want to help out Monica and the kids. Two of her kids are special needs kids, so she has not been working for the past few years. She's been taking care of her children full time, so it's difficult for them right now.
I'd just like to ask for a moment of silence to remember Stephen and his family, if you'll all join me then. All right, thank you. Now we'll move on to public comment, and I'm going to ask Vice President Larson to run the public comment portion of the meeting.
Very well. We have a short roster of speakers tonight, and I think we've got some familiarity with the process. So with just these 4, we'll have a clock up there, but I'll help moderate you through it. I'm not going to read the entire preamble that sometimes accompanies us. I think we'll just see how it goes tonight. Our first speaker that has requested is Katie Bach.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Good evening. My name is Katie Bach, and I'm a student from Stone Mountain Elementary. I'm here with the Cadet Girl Scout Troop at 256, and we are concerned about the exposure to air pollution from idling school buses.
We have been studying air pollution, its causes and effects. We have performed research, used the scientific method, and collected data on idling buses at our schools. Our hypothesis was that school buses are idling for more than they need to be and exposing students and teachers to diesel fumes. Our research, data collection, and analysis shows that our hypothesis was correct.
Emissions from diesel engines contain smelly, harmful, and toxic chemicals. Young people like us are especially susceptible to these health effects. We believe that anything that can be done to reduce exposure to diesel exhaust should be considered.
To be fair, school buses are a safe, economical, and reliable method of transportation, and the school district has done a good job of ensuring that our buses are well maintained, clean, and that the drivers are well trained and safe. However, the data we collected in February and March show that the 2 buses that serve Stone Mountain Elementary School sit with their engines idling next to the schoolyard for an average of about 6 minutes each morning and each afternoon, exposing from 35 to 75 students and adults to diesel fumes.
Our research shows that most diesel engine makers recommend turning off the engine if it is going to idle for more than a minute or 2. If the district would ensure that bus drivers shut off their engines rather than let them idle, exposure to diesel fumes would be reduced for the students at the school. This could save on fuel costs too. Our research shows that the district could save about $240 per year in fuel on just the 2 buses at Stone Mountain if they idled for only 1 minute instead of 6.
So we respectfully recommend to the board that a policy of minimizing school bus idling time to no more than 1 minute be adopted. The drivers trained and the engines off policy be enforced as widely as possible.
Thank you, and we hope you consider our idea.
Thank you, girls, for a well-researched and thoughtful presentation. Superintendent Fagan, I think we might want to consider what they've think and look into it.
I think we definitely can do that, and we'll work with Mr. Paul Ballon, who's our transportation director, and Bill Moffett, our chief operating officer, and come back to the board with our recommendation.
Very good. Our next speaker is Charcy Russell. And then on deck will be Judy Reynolds.
Director Kevin, I appreciate having a little bit of extra time tonight. That's going to work out just beautifully because I have something a little longer to give to you tonight. Greetings to each one of you. In December of 2010, I had the privilege of representing the district task force and presenting the Choice Scholarship Program to you for your consideration. This evening, I would like to congratulate you on the decision of the Denver Court of Appeals regarding your program. I would also like to read the following into the record. On February 25th, the Denver Court of Appeals overturned every count of a local district court's earlier ruling against the Douglas County School District's Choice Scholarship Program, or CSP. Judge Jay Jones, who drafted the appellate court's opinion, authored a 55-page brief which outlined the reasons for the appeals court decision to overturn the lower court's ruling. The major decisions presented by Jones were that the plaintiffs did not have a proper legal standing to bring the statutory suit, and that the plaintiffs' constitutional contentions were invalid. Quote, plaintiffs failed to carry their burden of proving the unconstitutionality of the CSP beyond a reasonable doubt, or by any other potentially applicable standard. None of them had standing to assert a claim under the Act. Accordingly, the district court's judgment cannot stand, close quote. With regard to the legal basis to bring the lawsuit, Jones wrote, quote, there is nothing in the language of the Act remotely suggesting that private citizens or groups have a right to seek judicial enforcement of its provisions. The Act expressly commits enforcement of its provisions to the state board. Judge Jones then made clear that, quote, we need not address the merits of the plaintiff's claim under the Act because we conclude that the plaintiffs lack of standing to bring it. The Act provides a number of mechanisms for ensuring compliance of its funding with its funding scheme, none of which contemplate private enforcement. Jones expressed the many concerns and conflicts which would arise if the plaintiffs were deemed to have standing, writing, quote, We are persuaded that allowing private citizens to act as substitute boards of education by challenging districts' actions in court would interfere with the state agency's efforts to meet their statutory obligations, and it would introduce uncertainty into a process where little can be tolerated. Local school districts, for example, would not be able to rely on the decisions of the state agencies if those decisions were open to court challenge by any disgruntled citizen. The court also found that there was no conflict between the Colorado constitutional provision which protect religious freedom and the district scholarship program. Judge Jones wrote, quote, perceiving no plain, palatable, or inevitable conflict between CSP and Article 9, Section 3, we concluded that plaintiffs did not meet their burden of establishing the unconstitutionality of the program under that provision. This evening, the Board of Directors of Great Choice Douglas County would also like to congratulate you on your ongoing effort to bring the best possible educational choice to every parent and child in Douglas County. We feel confident of your eventual victory in the courts for the very reason Judge Jones cited in his ruling. Thank you for pressing on. You continue to have the support of Douglas County parents and taxpayers in this wonderful mission.
Thank you for those comments. Judy Reynolds. And following Judy, we have Gary Colley.
Good evening, directors. I just wanted to express my disappointment with the ACLU that they've decided to continue the fight against the Choice Scholarship Program. By not allowing this pilot program to move forward, they've clearly indicated that providing diverse educational opportunities for our children is not more important than maintaining a status quo. I hope that our district will continue to fight to provide the best educational options and opportunities to each child. Education should focus on best outcomes for the individual, and when those best outcomes are not being obtained in the traditional system, parents and students should be able to use that money for that child's education in the place that works best for them. I would also like to speak about the proposed tax increase that seems destined to end up in the ballot this fall. There's been much discussion about changing the way that we fund and educate children in our state. Unfortunately, the new School Finance Act seems likely to bring higher taxes and more of the same. Rewarding those districts that spend with abandon and have no accountability or responsibility for educational success. Instead of developing a system where the money follows the child, rewards districts who move kids out of special categories and into the mainstream, and graduate competent kids from high school, we will continue to throw good money after bad and then wonder why it is not working. This is the easy solution. We need more money. The hard answer and the hard solution is real reform and accountability. Please continue your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. And Gary Colley is our next speaker.
Well, thank you for President Carson for turning this over to Vice President Larson. Hopefully there will be some reasonable adjustments to public comment. One of the things I'd like to add tonight, especially following on the choice presentation and with the previous board member speaking tonight, sometimes I feel like we're, as a community member, we're either lumped with people that are anti-board or pro-union, as opposed to just being conscientious, concerned citizens who do their own homework. And I've been doing my own homework on this board for a couple of years. And the challenges that I see that I hope will be overcome at some point in time is you have a very defensive attitude when people challenge you with things that are happening within the district. Underneath this ceiling here, we have a bunch of politicians too. You guys are politicians and you're following a pretty good political agenda. What I'm asking, and I have been asking all along, is just demonstrate. You should be able to find a way to demonstrate that you are serving the best interests of the community and what they want to see the direction you move. 21st century learning, you talk about it all the time. Why don't you put your resources into showing the credibility that you have with the community as you try to advance your program. I don't understand why that's such a challenge to do that. The other thing, it'd be nice if President Carson, maybe you could be less defensive when somebody brings up something within the community where you have to attack another person's viewpoint, whether it's the union or individuals themselves. One of the things I would like to commend in our school system here at district, besides the teachers, by the way, all the things you're talking about, the real essence of what those kids are getting in that classroom is the teacher, not the principal, not the support staff, the teacher. So my last comment here will be that we strive a little bit to have more reasonableness on your side and quit reacting the way you do to people that have differing views. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Colley. And that is the extent of the comments that were requested for this evening's meeting. I'd like to take a brief moment to share a couple comments of my own. Last week I had the opportunity to go attend a couple of teacher appreciation dinners that were given. I know there will be some more later this week. And it was truly a privilege to be at some of these events where seniors in high school in these communities were able to choose a teacher that has made a significant difference in their lives, to spend the evening sharing a meal together, meeting with that community, and hearing those remarks really says what it's all about when a teacher makes that kind of a lifelong, memorable commitment to that child. Along that line, I also want to mention that I was at an event last week where we had 3 schools in the Highlands Ranch High School feeder that competed in a math competition, and 2 of the other coaches I want to mention by name, Annette Burgeon from Lone Tree Elementary and Whitney Tomlin from Cougar Run Elementary, very instrumental in getting their teams, and then our team from Fox Creek that I work with had a really fun event. And there's a couple other teachers that are really doing some significant things. I know many, we have thousands of great teachers, but these are ones that have personally come to my attention. Tiffany Vaughn just recently started, she's already been coaching math counts at Ranchview Middle School, but she started a code club and really just got excited by seeing some of the things that were going on at Rock Canyon that were just recognized earlier tonight. And just going with some of the training and some of the classes she's involved herself in this year. She has just immersed herself in a number of ways that as a teacher she can develop and move ahead. And she got excited about hearing about this code club, started it. It's just taking off like wildfire over at Ranchview. And she just shared a story with me the other day about a little guy, 7th grade. She said, in any other setting would be one of those unnoticed kids. And he came and said, you know, I can create an app for that. He's already creating an app for them, and they're going to figure out a way to take this district-wide so they can make this available to other kids. Just tremendous potential that's tapped in these kids, and this is another a way that this teacher in particular caught that spark and is spreading it around. Another one I want to bring up too, because I think often we hear complaints or frustrations when there's things, and don't often enough hear when a teacher's making that terrific positive difference. So I'm gonna turn off my board member hat and put on my dad hat for a moment. My own daughter, who's comes from a family of mathematicians, and that's kind of a lot of pressure on her. After she left 6th grade and went through middle and her first couple years of high school, I think struggled sometimes to find, she had the aptitude, but to find the confidence and the passion to apply that was very elusive until this year. She's got a teacher, the name is Tony Verbsky at Highlands Ranch High School. He's just tremendous. These kids come into his classes. He teaches AP classes, but he's also teaching college algebra and college trig that my daughter takes. And he finds a way, and he's found a way, especially for her, to make it relevant, meaningful, and interesting, and she's inspired to come home and work on it. She likes to talk to me about her work, and I just think teachers that take those situations and make that big difference and turn around and get the kids excited about that subject again are precious and need to be held up. So Tony Verbsky, this is my hat's off to you. That concludes my remarks.
Any other comments? All right, well, we will press on to the end of the agenda here, and with a couple of votes. First, we have the acceptance of the agenda. I'll make a motion to accept the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Carson, seconded by Mendoza. Carson, aye. Excuse me, Benevento. Are you there, Mr. Benevento?
I am here, aye.
Motion to accept the agenda, aye. Carson, aye. Larson?
Aye.
Mendoza?
Aye.
Silverton?
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
All right, the agenda is accepted. And then the last item is the adoption of the consent agenda. I have before we go into that, make a few comments. I think, one of the things, I'm a great lover of history. I think one of the things we need to do more in education is recognize great role models and great leaders for young people. Tomorrow is the funeral of Margaret Thatcher, and so I sponsored a resolution commemorating her life and her legacy. And I think she's a tremendous role model for young people, particularly girls and women, someone who came from a very humble background and accomplished extraordinary things in life. She was always an inspiration for me in her fight for free enterprise, standing up to communism, sticking to her beliefs most of all, and being somebody who was straightforward with the people of her country and stood up for what she believed in. And I think she goes down in history as one of the greatest champions of freedom in the 20th century. And so I before we vote on the various items on the consent agenda, one of which is the resolution on Margaret Thatcher, I have a little five-minute video clip that Randy spliced together there. And what it is it's a sort of a humorous little video clip. Margaret Thatcher from 1971 as she was the head of the education department in Great Britain in the cabinet of then Prime Minister Heath. And that was kind of her first major position. And this little clip here is quite humorous. It outlines the manner in which she got the nickname Thatcher the Milk Snatcher. Thatcher the Milk Snatcher. So you'll learn that in the little video clip. But it's interesting that some of the issues that she talks about are the same ones we're talking about today in education 42 years later. And then there's just a final part of the 5 minutes is a final segment in the British Parliament with some exchanges she had, which are much rowdier than our school board meetings. So with that, Randy, and if you guys would play that clip, and then we'll go ahead and vote and conclude the meeting.
Some abilities, some aptitude, often very different sort of abilities and aptitude. You've got to try to bring out whatever is there. But then as well, I think you've got to try to prepare a child for the society into which it will go out, for the world it will live in. And you have a duty to do that as well. I do feel, though, that sometimes we have been expecting a bit much of education. I think sometimes we've expected it to solve all the problems of society, and the problems are really too great for the education system to do that alone.
Some people say you don't understand the problems of the ordinary person.
Well, it's just absolute nonsense. I started life with two great advantages: no money and good parents. Now, no money can be an advantage because you've done a lot to fight your own way, and good parents are the best advantage of all.
Mrs. M. Booth, who I think is sitting 1, 2, 3, 4 rows up there.
How would Mrs. Thatcher like to go all day without a drink, apart from water, if the child leaves home at 8:30 in the morning, as several I know do, don't get home till 4 o'clock? If there's no milk provided, they go all day long without a drink. As one little girl said to me, I could drink at the school tap, but it doesn't look very clean. I was a Conservative, but that's finished me. This milk has finished me. Never again will I vote Conservative. Hurting children is absolutely the end. Little children need a drink just as much as Mrs. Thatcher did when she came here and had 3 sips in just a few minutes. Fortunately, our children are at school desk and they're sometimes terribly frightened. Their work is getting them down and yet they can't. I've watched children come in from school, oh, for a drink. Is it fair? In this day and age, is it fair? Back in days gone by, yes, but not now, surely.
Well, fortunately, the water here is clean. It came out of a clean tap, and so it should at school. And there's something very wrong if it isn't.
Well, even so, Mrs. Thatcher,
Yes,
excuse me,
can I
but
go on to the milk? I will certainly answer that. And when I went to a very ordinary primary school as well, I remember, and some of you will remember here, taking your tuppence halfpenny to school to buy the milk. And I think your little girl, or the children you know, would probably be quite happy to pay for the milk. The parents would. I think it should be on sale.
No, one mother has 6 children under 10, £18 a week coming in. Now, can she afford any more to pay than she does now to pay the rent, the house, the lighting? She can't afford to buy the milk.
Will have applied
She
for.
hasn't time even to fill the form in with 4 babies in 4 years.
Oh, well, I hope someone will have seen that she does get free school meals because her children need them and she deserves them. And I did put up the entitlement to free school meals, really just with mothers such as her good self in mind.
Forms, they just don't understand these.
Can I just come back to you on that? Because the alternative, you see, would be to provide, say, free school meals for everyone.
I give way to the honourable gentleman.
There is no doubt that the Prime Minister has in many ways achieved substantial success. There is one statistic that I understand is not, however, challenged, and that is that over her 11 years, the gap between the richest 10% and the poorest 10% in this country has widened substantially. How can she say at the end of her chapter of British politics that she can justify many people in a constituency such as mine being relatively much poorer, much less well housed, and much less well provided than it was in 1979? Surely she accepts that is not a record that she or any Prime Minister can be proud of.
Mr. Speaker, all levels of income are better off than they were in 1979. But what the honourable member is saying is that he would rather the poor were poorer, provided the rich were less rich. That way you will never create the wealth for better social services as we have. And what a policy! Yes, he would rather have the poor poorer, provided the rich were less rich. That is the Liberal policy. Yes, it came out, he didn't intend it to, but he did. I give way to the honourable gentleman.
The Prime Minister is aware that I detest every single one of the domestic policies. I've never had that.
And I think that the honourable gentleman knows that I have the same contempt for his socialist policies as the people of East Europe who experienced it have it for theirs. I think I must have hit the right nail on the head when I pointed out that the logic of those policies are they'd rather have the poor poorer. Once they start to talk about the gap, they'd rather the gap was that. Down here. That. Not that. But that. So long as the gap is smaller, so long as the gap is smaller, they'd rather have the poor poorer. You do not create wealth and opportunity that way. You do not create the poverty-earning democracy that way.
All right, well, she gave as good as she got there. So with that, I will see if there are any comments on the consent agenda. And if not, we'll go ahead and vote.
Director Richardson? On that, I can't resist. First of all, I think it should come as no surprise to our community that this is a board that treasures and values strong, principled, morally clear, and brilliant leadership by women. And I think in that sense, it's a very natural thing for us to express ourselves on the passing of Margaret Thatcher. I've said in a number of settings that I think that so much of education has an implicit or embedded question. And that question is, who are your heroes? And each of our students is going to have to answer that question for themselves. And they'll do it with the help of the values they receive from their parents. They'll do that with the instruction they receive from their teachers. But I hope they have a hero as they learn, because that, I think, adds meaning to life. Margaret Thatcher is, I think, a hero for me, and I know for many members of our board, in part from the many things that we've seen that she did in her longest serving prime minister in the 20th century, and the only woman to hold that office. We saw, particularly from my perspective, as someone who had the privilege of working for Ronald Reagan, that when we were very alone in this country, at times of great peril, Margaret Thatcher stood with us when it was costly to do so. When I think of the Berlin bombing of our service people, only Margaret Thatcher and the United Kingdom stood with us in Operation El Dorado Canyon, which was the beginning of the end of Muammar Gaddafi. When difficult choices need to be made about how best to compel the Soviet Union to remove intermediate range ballistic missiles that had a 20-minute flight time to murder hundreds of millions of Europeans. Ronald Reagan made the difficult decision to deploy our own missiles to get the Russians to back off. And Margaret Thatcher and Chancellor Helmut Kohl stood with us. So it bears pause, it bears mention of the heroism of Margaret Thatcher, and I just hope our students, as they progress through their learning, will find a champion, will find someone in whom they believe, and that will help guide them during the troubles and the difficult times sometimes that this life produces. So that's why I think it's quite natural that we express ourselves on this occasion.
With that said, man,
Director Larson.
I'd concur, and I think that this resolution is worthy of its own agenda item, and I'd request that we pull from the consent and actually read the resolution into the record.
Good. We'll go ahead and have a separate vote on it. All right, with that, I'll move the adoption of the resolution commemorating the life and legacy of Margaret Thatcher. Is there a second? Motion by Carson, seconded by Richardson. Benevento?
Aye.
Carson, aye. Larson?
Aye.
Mendoza?
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
Silverthorne? All right, the motion is adopted. And do you want to read it? Okay, I didn't realize you actually want to read it. Go ahead, go right ahead.
Thank you for that privilege. I just think it's, as we just saw demonstrated, Margaret Thatcher is worthy of the spoken word. So where others may have collaborated on writing these words, I'm honored to give them voice. Whereas throughout her consequential life in public service as the longest serving Prime Minister of the United Kingdom in the 20th century, and as the only woman to have held that office, Margaret Thatcher was a positive role model for all young people, and particularly for young women who strive to make a difference in society and to achieve noble things. And whereas Margaret Thatcher served as a shining example of a person who came from modest means, worked hard to gain a world-class education, in chemistry no less, from Oxford University, was a housewife, mother of twins, supported by a devoted husband, and achieved greatness in her country and on the world stage. And whereas Margaret Thatcher was a relentless champion of freedom, who fought tirelessly for free enterprise, for the economic policies that foster individual opportunity and global prosperity, and for human liberty and dignity throughout the world. And whereas Margaret Thatcher was a great friend of America, who, like Winston Churchill, sought to preserve, protect, and strengthen the historical special relationship between Great Britain and the United States that has stood firmly as a bulwark of Western civilization for nearly a century. And whereas Margaret Thatcher joined with other great leaders such as Ronald Reagan and John Paul II in opposing communism throughout the world and in helping to liberate the oppressed people of Eastern Europe from the misery of Soviet tyranny. And whereas Margaret Thatcher was a decisive leader who recognized the importance of strong leadership, firm principles, enduring values, and moral clarity, therefore be it resolved that the Douglas County Board of Education celebrates the life and commemorates the legacy of Prime Minister Margaret Hilda Thatcher and commends her as a role model for the young people of the Douglas County School District as they strive to become future leaders in Colorado and our nation, and as they seek to make a positive and enduring difference in the course of human progress.
Very good, thank you. That'll be entered into the minutes of the board. All right, now we have the consent agenda. Are there any discussion of the balance of the issues on the consent agenda? If not, I'll make a motion to adopt the consent agenda. Is there a second? Motion by Carson, seconded by Silverthorne. Benevento.
Aye.
Carson, aye. Larson?
Aye.
Mendoza?
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
Silverthorne? All right, and the final item is a motion to adjourn. I'll make the motion to adjourn this evening promptly at 9 o'clock. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Carson, second by Larson. Benevento?
Aye.
Carson, aye. Larson?
Aye.
Mendoza?
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
Silverthorne? All righty, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming. We'll see you next time.